What's up everyone, my name is Biku and I'm back with an update on the new printer. A couple things have made progress since the last time I saw you. I've now got a very rudimentary but working spool holder, got a totally not for another 3D printer magnetic bed, totally for this printer, bespoke, not for any other printer at all. I've actually got a cooling fan now. It's just mounted and blowing directly onto the hot end, which I know isn't the greatest, but this hot end assembly is not meant to be the final hot end. This is supposed to be just get filament onto the bed so I can see where issues with the kinematics pop up. And we have found some issues and I'm going to resolve them eventually, but again, part of the testing process. None of my 3D printers that I've built started off with their first prints looking amazing, and as you can see, definitely got some issues, but we'll sort them out. So let's start off with the bed. So this is honestly, I'm not even sure which end of this is from. This, I actually just walked into a local store that carries filaments and they just had these beds for, I think it's an Ender 3 or something, Ender Neo, I don't know. But it's marketed as a no heating required bed. I think it's meant for one of the printers that doesn't come with a heated bed out of the factory or something like that, but it is actually a piece of spring steel, or at least steel. I don't know if it's spring steel, and it came with the magnetic pad, and I mean, when it goes on fine. I don't have any of the alignment pins at the back that you would have on like a Prusa or anything like that, but that doesn't seem to be an issue. With the Z probe over there, it seems to home mostly fine, and I get a pretty even layer, but not perfect, but pretty even. So, but I mean, it's been working well. But even though this is a apparently no heating required eco bed, I have been running it with a heated bed anyway, and it doesn't seem to be giving any issues. It might be just for like power savings. I think that's why they've got kind of the eco-friendly thing on it. This is running a 220. You can also even see it actually overlaps the bed, but this is the closest one I could find to this bed size, and like I said, I literally just walked into the shop and picked it up that day, so can't really complain too much. But this is a 240 volt heated bed that's hooked up through a solid state relay. I'm honestly not even going to show you the connection to it. You might catch it, but I'm not going to point it out because it's not right, and I need to set it up properly. But let's just say the bed gets hot. I'm the only one that's ever touching this thing, so I know what to do and where to not touch. But let's just say I'm not going to go around showing the wrong way to do things. But again, this is just for testing. The idea ultimately is to not have the power supply just zip tied to the side of the thing, but to eventually have a proper box. But I was getting tired of this just flopping around, so very temporary solution just for testing. Another change that's been made is that I don't know if you can see it there, the Z-axis focus. The Z-axis motor now has a step up belt pulley there. There. It was just a 20 tooth pulley like the rest of it, but I was noticing that I could get this thing to skip steps by pretty much just resting my finger on this thing while it was moving. Now, let's let it do its homing cycle. Now I can put a decent amount of force on that, and it doesn't skip any steps. No, actually, I'm putting a lot of pressure on that, and I cannot get it to skip a step. So that was solved before. I would literally just rest my finger on that and it would skip steps. And I did try tune the motor drivers a bit, but they were getting a little bit hot anyway, so this is better. One other thing I noticed, and I knew about this, but I haven't actually ever used a steel bed before. With the steel bed, the inductive probe, there's a much bigger sensing area where the inductive probe will trigger. Before, this was just a layer of PCB, just a layer of thin copper effectively, and it would probe within about, I'd say 4 mil, 3 mil. Now it probes within, I don't know, I'd say that's about 6 mil. Definitely more than it was before. So that's been good, but I have had to tweak these settings. One thing that, because I've only played around very lightly with sensing probes and never got it set up properly, one thing I forgot about that gave me a lot of hassles actually is that when you have unified bed leveling enabled, you need to enable EEPROM, and when you enable EEPROM, even if you flash new firmware, settings don't change. So I was pulling my hair out when I had changed the drive belt, or not the drive belt, sorry, when I changed the drive pulley size and I changed the settings for the steps per millimeter to what they should have been, and I was flashing Marlin to the controller and it started moving half as much as it should have because the EEPROM settings were still set to the steps per millimeter for the 20-tooth pulley. Very annoying. Now it's all sorted. So as you can see, this thing has actually decided to make some prints. Some of them it wasn't having a good day, but others, you know, were better. Still not really good, still not to the level that I would consider acceptable. But considering this is, I think this is at this point the third or the fourth prints that this thing has done at all. Not too bad. So this is literally the very first print that I tried. Granted, this filament that I'm using is horrible filament. I'm not able to get new filament right now, so this was just whatever filament I had lying around. It's really old PLA. This had no cooling fan put on it as well. But this is just some little whistle that I downloaded off of Thingiverse or Printables or whatever. As you can see, a lot of cooling issues, possibly even some over extrusion issues, just issues. So, but I mean, hey, it's the very first print that this thing did. This is the second print. You can see it's got some Z issues. I'm not 100% sure if this is Z issues or if this is acceleration issues. I'm noticing that this thing shakes a lot when this thing is printing at the kind of default acceleration settings and speeds that Prusa Slicer decided. I haven't tweaked it at all, but because this is carrying around a motor when it moves, I think that is imparting a lot of extra force that is not necessary. So some of this may be the acceleration, and I'll see if I can show you a video. When this thing is going, it shakes a lot. But like I said, I haven't tweaked any of the settings yet at all. This is literally just whatever Prusa Slicer has set default for a custom 3D printer. So some of it may be that, some of it may be the shit filament, but like, you can see there's definitely some ringing. If you look through the other issues, you can see there's some ringing, but the overall cooling isn't too bad. Don't mind that, it ran out of filament before it got to the top. But so far, considering it's done a couple prints, you know, semi-reliably, I'd consider that good progress. Just to put into perspective the kind of filament that I'm working with right now, this is the only filament I've got. This is PLA. Keep in mind, it came out of the box like this, and this is better because I have run it through a kind of heating cycle. You can see it just snaps. It just snaps. Oh, there it bent a little bit before it snapped, but yeah, this stuff is shit. It was in the extruder before it snapped itself. It came from out of the box like that, but it was worse. This is an improvement over how it was before. So shitty filament, doesn't really, okay, it's the exact same brand of filaments, and the pink and the white filament feel almost identical. So hopefully we'll get new filaments soon, and then I can see if it is all the filaments, if it is what issues are from the shitty filaments and what issues are from the, I'm not going to call it a shitty printer, I like it so far, but from the incomplete printer, let's just call it. Last thing I want to talk about in this video is I want to have obviously some form of remote control of this printer. I've got two options. I've got a Raspberry Pi 0W here, first gen 0W, and I've got an OG, just Raspberry Pi, one with the network port. Or no, did the original one, I know there's the Raspberry Pi A and B. I know one of them had one less thing than the other. This is, what is this? This one, whatever this one is. This is one of the OGs. I've had this thing forever. My other printer, my Delta printer, is actually using a similar one, or actually the exact same one as this, running OctoPi, and it's been running fine. I know it's technically, both of these, technically, because this is the first gen Pi Zero, both of these technically aren't supported, but if you don't run a webcam and you don't use too many plugins, it's honestly fine. I've never had any issues with one of these on my other printer. I don't know which one to use. This has built-in Wi-Fi, so I don't have to use an adapter. I don't really have networking in the workshop that I'm in, so can't really plug it into LAN unless I get a repeater. Repeaters aren't great, but I mean, hey, that's basically the same as Wi-Fi at that point. I can also just plug a Wi-Fi dongle into that. There's no real benefit other than this one being smaller, but if this one's smaller, I have to run it with an adapter to plug into the printer or solder wires directly to the back. I might just go with the Pi Zero because it's smaller, or I don't know, this one's got more options. But one of these is definitely going to be running the printer, running Octoprint, because I've used Octoprint forever at this point. I may, if I do end up going with this one, I may need to download an older version though, because I remember setting up the other one for my other printer that I needed to go back to like a Jessie version of the OctoPi software for this to actually run on one of these. Nah, if we have to, we have to. This is never going to be open to the outside world, so if it's running older versions, it shouldn't be an issue. But yes, thanks for this little mini updates on the new printer. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe. Thanks so much. Bye. Sneak peek at another project that may be coming up soon.